Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful night. Tonight we're going to be going an hour, maybe an hour, 10 minutes, discussing Rambo 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, yeah. As you all know, Rambo is starred by Sylvester Stallone. And these movies, contrary to most beliefs, are not political statements. They're actually awareness-driven movies. You see, Rambo 1 was it was created to spread awareness, basically, to spread awareness that those who fought in the Vietnam War were not welcomed home with respect. Many of them were treated with open hostility. Many of them were called baby killers, murderers, and rapists, and all that stuff. And this movie, while it was... How you doing, Mr. Pete? This movie, while it was made to, or it was a adaptation from a novel, it was still... It's really cool. Steve McQueen was one of the original choices to play Rambo, and he really wanted to do it. That is cool. I did not know that. But yeah, one of the things that happened one of the things that they do well in Rambo is they show Rambo is trying to connect with people he was involved with in Vietnam. And in the beginning, it shows him going to a small rural area where he talks to a woman with her kids and whatnot, asking or announcing himself, showing that he knew or he was looking for his friend and whatnot. Thank you, Ambassador. But I would have loved to have seen Kirk Douglas as Troutman. Nothing to take away from Richard Crenna. Yeah, that was interesting. They wanted Kirk Douglas as Troutman. Troutman was actually a very good character. We'll get to that shortly. Anyway, the first movie, he's looking for his friend. His friend died because of his exposure to Vietnam, some of the things he was exposed to over there. And so then Rambo finds himself in a town. He gets picked up by a cop who realized he was in Vietnam, so he's like, and Rambo asks, "Is there anything good to eat around here?" And he's like, "There is a couple towns over and whatnot. I'll drive you through so you can just keep on going." They treated him wrong, and because Rambo was not liking how he was being treated, he decided to turn around and the cop noticed, and when the cop put hands on him, he reacted defensively, not hurting the guy, but he just shrugged him off and got all tense, and he's like, "Now I'm arresting you." So they blast him with a hose and whatnot. They freaking arrest him for vagrancy and stuff. It really just, you start getting flashbacks when he's being mistreated in the KD turned down the Troutman. That I honestly don't know. Junebug would know that. So when he gets the PTSD flashbacks, you see what he was exposed to. And then when they say they were going to give him a shave, he then flips out, escapes, and starts running. And that's when the show really kicks off. And he finds his way back into the gorges, into the woods, and he starts picking these guys apart, basically. One guy, when they went into a cannon with the chopper, hunting him, one guy, or the pilot, tried telling him, we can't go down there. If the freaking updraft from the helicopter hits us, we're cooked. We could go right into a wall. I mean, Rambo still tried telling them, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And they didn't care. They just kept on going. Did this actually because he served in, yep, I remember he served in Korea, so he was more jealous of Rambo, at least in the book. Yep, I remember hearing about that. They actually make a small mention of it in the movie, if I remember correctly. So they all go hunting for Rambo, especially after the chopper goes down. And Rambo basically picks them apart systematically and puts the knife right up to him, and then you basically hear that iconic line, let it go, or I'll give you a war you won't believe. Let it go. And then he just spooks out, disappears, basically leaving the cop in a puddle of his own piss, which was very cool. And I was able to watch these movies with the audio commentary from Sly Stallone, and the way they did that scene where he had to sew up his arm after he got shot in the arm, he basically, I think he said he went to a emergency room with the prop and the prosthetic and whatnot, and they had a bladder to flow the blood out of the wound to show that the wound was bleeding. And he wanted to know, he fooled all the people in the ER thinking that it was an actual trauma that needed addressing and whatnot. The whole mess would have been avoided if the cop drove him to the next town. The whole mess would have been avoided if the cop hadn't been a prick. That's the thing. That's what this movie was based about. The people of Vietnam, or the people who fought for freedom in Vietnam, yes, it's a war that we shouldn't have gotten involved in, but our soldiers were treated very poorly when they got out. So when they heard that John Rambo was the person who was identified as the vagrant, well, the military came in, because the cop also called in the National Guard, I think it was, if I remember the movie correctly, which I do. Anyway, Troutman shows up, and he gives him a brief background on Rambo, and he's like, you don't know what you're dealing with, man. He's trained. If he's in hostile terrain, he'll dig in. You'll never get him out. He'll pick you apart without you even knowing he was there. And so he tried calling to Rambo with the radio, Blackbird calling Raven, and Rambo starts talking to him and whatnot, and he's like, basically, I'm not going to quote it all because it would take all night. God didn't make Rambo. I did. Yeah, exactly. That was one of the greatest. Quotes of the first movie. God didn't make Rambo. I did. But yeah, and when he was talking to Troutman, and Troutman actually got him to talk back and whatnot, basically Rambo totally outed that cop. Basically, he's like, all this wouldn't have happened if that cop didn't stop me from trying to get something to eat. And that's when you see the cop look down in shame, and it's like, yeah. And so they tried going in again. They failed. And Rambo decided that he had enough, and he wasted that town. And when Troutman finally confronted him in the police station, it's over, John. It's over. Nothing is over. And then he talks about that's when he starts breaking down emotionally, where he's talking to his friend talking about his friend who lost his legs to a kid with a bomb, or with a suicide bomb. And the way that it was acted The way that Stallone portrayed that one moment, you could feel for him. Now, I will never understand what people in Vietnam went through. I cannot begin to understand that. Are treated poorly, not to the extent that they were in Vietnam, but I should know, dating a United States soldier, and it's my current girlfriend. Nice. Thank her for her service, man. Definitely. But there was the original intended scene. I believe it actually took place in the book. I never read the book, but it took place. I think it took place in the book where it was the suicide scene, where he had Troutman shoot him, and he died. But instead, he allowed himself to be incarcerated, which led to First Blood Part 2. Back there, I can fly a gunship, $1 million equipment. Here, I can't hold a job, parking fucking car. Yeah. Parking cars, yep. And I also have some of my favorite lines from the movies, especially Rambo 4, which we'll get to or after I get through 2 and 3. 3 is my least favorite, but it's also the least memorable. I mean, one of the things I do like from 3 was the beginning, a couple of scenes in the middle, and that was about it, because I can barely remember some of 3. I wanted to watch 3 before the stream, but I unfortunately got busy. But one of the things, but then it takes it up in 2, and one of the best lines in Rambo 2 was when he's like, "Sir, do we get the win this time?" Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that the book is more violent. I'm actually going to have to look for it. But yeah, and he's like, "That's up to you, Johnny." So yeah, one of my favorite lines from Rambo 2. Let's see here. Yep. It was after it was the ending of Rambo 2. The war, Troutman and Rambo were talking. The war, the whole conflict may have been wrong, but damn it, don't hate your country for it. And Rambo turns to him, "Hate, I'd die for it. Then what is it you want?" "I want what they want. And every other guy who came over here and spilled his guts and gave everything they had wants for our country to love us as much as we love it. That's what I want." Now, Rambo 2 basically was another awareness driven. It was to address the fact that there were POWs. Johnny teamed up with Osama bin Laden. That's one way of taking it or putting it. But anyway, Rambo 2 was basically to address the fact that we still had POWs over there, and negotiations were failing for the most part, but we did eventually get some of them back, if I remember correctly. I do not know if that was true. But in the movie, he confirmed the presence of POWs, and he even freaking rescued their asses. And then he went right after the freaking spook that got him in, or that brought him back to the world. And after Rambo 2, I mean, that movie was even better, man, because he was back into thick. He was back in war. War is a part of Rambo as much as Rambo is a part of Sly Stallone. It's second nature to him, to Rambo. He never left. And that's kind of what happened, or it's what he said at the end of Rambo 5. "I thought I had come back to the world, but I realized I never left. Or I had never left the war behind." But yeah, he goes back. It's 1985. The POW didn't even, or when he told the POW, it's like, holy shit, man. I've been there for years and whatnot. And they rescued all the POWs. He went after Murdoch, and he just shot the shit out of the command center. Now, moving on to Rambo 3. Rambo's in Thailand, if I remember correctly. And he's basically just trying to live a solitude life, a life of solitude. He can't go back to the States. He realized that he couldn't go back to the States. John Travolta considered for a part in the original script. It's good to be a buddy. That was one of the original script for Rambo 2. Nice. Or it's going to be a buddy movie. That was one of the original. Nice. And anyway, he does the stick fighting, and that's when Troutman finds him. He's basically in the crowd watching, and Rambo beats the guy with the sticks, or in the stick fight, and the guy is on his back, and they're both trading each other very hard looks. And then the guy basically sees in Rambo's face that Rambo's ready to kill if the guy continues. So the guy does soften and stop. And Rambo is able to return back to his less primal state. Placed with an Asian lady. Yeah, I think that was the case. Right? Rainbow 3 is actually my favorite. Nice. Just getting a drink, folks. But anyway, he talks to him, and he's like, "We need your help, John. There's a case in Afghanistan, or was it Iraq or Iran? One of those three." But anyway, that movie was also awareness driven. It was to raise awareness that Russians were in a place that they shouldn't have been, and they were taking over the place too. So Rambo turns it down. Troutman still goes, and he ends up getting caught. So then Rambo hears that Troutman is caught, and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm going in." Troutman is one of the only people I respect in this world. And so he rescues Troutman. And there's that scene in the cave after he got shot in the gut, or right in the side and whatnot, where he cracks open bullets and whatnot to cauterize his wound, where he sends a flame shooting right through his damn body. And I'm like, holy shit. That was one of the more memorable, because he's like, "Ah!" And he literally had to take a while too, because that kind of pain, the amount of pain that soldiers endure, I will never truly understand, as I am not a soldier. Really cool as Red Foreman is in this movie. Ooh, he was in the third one, right? You're talking, because we're talking about the third one, so I guess you mean the third one, right, Junebug? But yeah, so then Rambo finishes going after them, and that's all you see of Rambo for a long, long time, folks. Then swing around to circa 2008. The crises in Burma has become so much of a problem. Sly Stone heard about it, and while he was planning Rambo 4, which was originally supposed to be slated as the final Rambo, the definitive final. And yes, we are now going to Rambo 4 and Rambo 5, which are the ones that are my actual favorites of the Rambo series. 4 and 5 are my favorites by, he was the third one. He was in the third one. Okay. But yeah, Red Foreman, I'll have to look him up. Like I said, the third one was not the most memorable to me. Sorry. But yeah, the fourth one actually was planned to be what the fifth one turned out to be. Rambo was back stateside. He was trying to have some semblance of a normal life. And this is me paraphrasing, but also somewhat quoting, it was going to be a story that was innocuous as the housekeeper's daughter. She goes into Mexico, things go south, the cartels and whatnot. Rambo goes in to rescue her and her friends, and it goes from there. Well, that story was put on a back burner not fully scrapped, but put on a back burner because they heard of all the horrible things going on in Burma. And this movie was definitely awareness driven because it raised awareness of what was going on in Burma. And it also changed the lives of the people of Burma forever. Kurtwood Smith is the actor who played Red Foreman in that 70s show. Okay. I think I know who you're talking about now, yeah. But anyway, so this undertaking that they did, they had to shoot the movie in Thailand because they realized, or when the Burmese government in Myanmar found out what was going on, that there was a movie being made that shined Burma in less than a positive light. They put a kill order, or they put a shoot order on anyone who entered Burma that was part of Lionsgate, that was a part of the production of Rambo. I mean, some of the people that were involved in the making of the movie who played the Karen rebels were actual Karen rebels. The guy who played the major bad guy in Rambo 4, who was that corrupt general that was a very disgusting character, he was a Karen rebel, and he literally told Sylvester Stallone and them, by my doing this, my family back home is probably going to be hunted and hurt and persecuted and whatnot. But I will still do it. And it just goes to show that there were people who were willing to even sacrifice their family in order to get the message out that things happen, or that were happening there, needed to change. About Rambo 4 and 5 is that there are politically driven, but they don't shove it down your throat. They show that these are real bad people, and Rambo must take them out. I wouldn't say that they're politically driven, though, Junebug. That is where I will disagree with you. I didn't see much political things in it. Now, there is a deleted scene, sure, that does mention a little bit of politics, and I'll actually do that quote, because it's the deleted scene where it's actually, some of the scene is in the movie, where Julie Benz's character goes in to Rambo to try to convince him to go, or to go up the river and whatnot. It was in the rain, she was on his boat and such. So let me just pull that out, or pull that up. Basically, part of it was actually in the movie as well, or part of the monologue that Rambo has in his head. I'll also tell that one as well. But what he tells her is, we're like animals. It's in the blood. It's natural. Peace, that's an accident. It's what is. When you're pushed, killing's as easy as breathing. Then the killing stops in one place and starts up in another, but that's okay, because you're killing for your country. But it ain't your country that asked you. It's a few men up top who want it. Old men start it. Young men fight it. Nobody wins. Everybody in the middle dies, and nobody tells the truth. God's going to make that all go away? Don't waste your life. I did. Go home. Really, go home. Sarah was her name. I mean, you see that ending part of it. Go home. Really, go home. That part was in the movie. But the rest of it, that was cut to deleted scene, sorry. And what they put in there instead was after the person came that hired the mercenaries, they do the dialogue where Rambo's making his knife. You know what you are, what you're made of. War is in your blood. Don't fight it. You didn't kill for your country. You killed for yourself. The gods are never going to make that go away. When you're pushed, killing's as easy as breathing. And he realized, or when he was having dreams after he sent the missionaries upriver, and the scene that takes place when they were going upriver of how they were caught by the Burmese pirates, it was slowly returning John Rambo back to what he had left behind. It's kind of like that beast that was inside Rocky Balboa. There's still more in him, more fight, more. And his second nature was suppressed, but it was still there. And one of his own creeds basically was fuck the world. He didn't care. He just didn't. Rambo just didn't care about missionaries and whatnot. He didn't care at all. He told them basically, he's like, fuck the world. And he asked them, are you bringing in any weapons? Of course not. You ain't changing anything. And so when they get caught, the pirates board the place. They notice that one of them's a female. Rocky versus Rambo, no weapons, who wins? Rambo. Rambo would win that fight because he wouldn't fight by any rules. He really wouldn't. He would, hand to hand, Rambo would take him apart. I think how you continue the Rambo series, I would like to see a prequel to his time in Vietnam, and how you make it different is Rambo is not the main focus on one or the other team members. That's an interesting concept, Jimbo. It really is. But yeah, so Rambo starts having these dreams of the previous movies, that what they showed, and then you hear John Rambo, and that's when the missionary guy came in to give him or ask him to take the mercenaries. And then you get Graham McTavish, frickin', and all the other guys. Can't remember all their actors' names, but you got Schoolboy, and oh my gosh, these guys, frickin' Gutter Trash or something like that. I can't remember their names, but they're all mercs, and they all come from walks of lives. And oh my gosh, man, when you see them in action, you see that they are all very skilled and whatnot. But freaking McTavish is just a jackass to Rambo. And he's like, it's got to be better than looking up the ass end of a snake. And that's when Rambo looks at him. He's like, oh my, you are an uptight bastard, aren't you? You could drop the 1,000-yard stare, mate. I've seen it before, and I'm not impressed. It's like, and you know that everybody in the movies that was watching those movies was James Brolin was originally considered to replace Richard Crenna in this movie. Well, I don't think that Troutman was actually in the movie, but they possibly. All right, thanks, Mr. Pete, for dropping by. You take it easy. But yeah, it's interesting that Brolin would have been considered. Now, back in the movie, they get off the boat and they're like, somebody wants to tell me what the boatman's doing. He's like, I can go with you. I won't slow you down and whatnot. He's like, he's the boatman. He sticks with the fucking boat. I want a real guy staying with the boat, not some fucking day. He's dropping some real hatred and racism, but it's overlooked because, well, that's his character, you know? Now, anyway, the kid and the rebel, or the kid's a good tracker and whatnot, and they find the village where the missionaries were last in that got raided by the Burmese military. And the Burmese military brought some people back for their form of entertainment, which is throw a couple of mines in the small rice field or rice paddies and have the civilians run across it and take bets on who doesn't get blown up. Nowadays, people get butthurt because Rambo in the books is a Native American and they hired an Italian actor. Yeah, well, that's their problem. I don't give two shits what they think or what they believe. Sylvester Stallone was the greatest choice they could have ever came up with. Now, you have this character, or now these people are run through. They're thinking about, or they're trying to shoot him because they go to one side. They don't want to go through because they're afraid they might get blown up. And the mercs are hiding. They're getting ready to fire on them. And that's when Rambo comes in, kills the military people, then asks the guy how long till they're overdue. And 3, maybe 4 hours. And so, or the mercs are like, who are you, boatman? He's like, let's move. They're going to come hunting our asses down. And he's like, we didn't sign up for this. We're going back to the boat. And that's when Rambo basically draws on the head merc, which is Graham McTavish. And he gives the best speech, and I'm going to read it here. Any of you boys want to shoot, now's the time. And there isn't one of us that wants to be someplace else, but this is what we do, who we are. Live for nothing or die for something. Your call. Now, live for nothing and die for something. That is a back alley creed to the people of Burma. When that movie came out and whatnot, if anybody in Burma is caught selling a bootleg or actually caught watching that movie, you get 10 years in prison. This was back in 2008 when they explained it and whatnot. If you're caught selling a bootleg copy of Rambo in Burma, it's life in prison. I mean, the regime in Burma was very brutal. The Burmese pirates were very brutal. When Rambo kills those Burmese pirates that was saving them, or after he saved missionaries while they were going upriver, the head missionary's like, we came here to stop the killing. Who are you to judge? And that's when Rambo just puts him up against his throat, up against the post in his boat. Who are you? They would have raped her 50 times and cut your fucking heads off. Who are you? Who are any of you? And that's true. They would have raped her 50 times and they would have cut their heads off. That's what the people in Burma, or the military and the pirates of Burma, do to people. They were killing kids. That movie held nothing back. They showed kids getting killed, kids getting thrown into fires, getting hacked apart. They did not hold anything back in that film. And they wanted to express the reality of the situation, that these people were under a very brutal and very terrorized regime. And even Rambo needed help going after these people. And Julie Benz's character is about to get raped in the camp where those military people came through. Now, when Rambo gets there, he grabs that guy by the neck so the guy can't get anything out. And he's squeezing so hard, lifts the guy up, and you start seeing blood running down that guy, or running down Rambo's fingers. Rambo tore the dude's throat out. And it was a very brutal scene, but the way that Sly directed it and the way that Sly wanted it to happen was, this guy was about to do something very brutal to her. Rambo felt he needed to be brutally handled. And that's exactly how they did it. And then people, or the other mercs, rescued most of them. or most of the other people, and Schoolboy, the sniper, stays behind for Rambo and Sarah. So those three are backtrack. They're a ways behind, and the others are going, and Graham McTavish steps on a mine, gets his leg shredded, and the mercenaries are helping him, but they eventually get caught on their way to the boat. Rambo separates from the sniper and Sarah, and that's when Schoolboy, the sniper, and Sarah find out that their friends have been taken and they're getting beat by the general and whatnot. And Rambo grabbed a piece of fabric from, or also took the sniper's claymore. There's a tall boy bomb in the movie that was dropped during World War II that didn't go off, but it was still active. It's very dangerous. And it's not like a nuke, but it's still a very high concussive bomb. It's pretty high yield. It's not a nuke, though. But anyway, the people were following the girl's scent, which he had a strip of her shirt, tied it around the claymore, and he set the claymore to the bomb, or to the tall boy bomb. And then he ran like the devil, and the people who caught up to, or the dogs led him to the bomb, and it blows because the claymore was triggered and whatnot. And that was a brilliant scene, man. But then, because they're ready to kill the mercenaries and the missionaries, and he's like, there's nothing and Schoolboy's like, there's nothing we can do. But that's where Rambo is right behind the guy in one of the gunnery jeeps, or the gun jeeps, and he slices that dude's head off and then just uses the 50 cal machine gun to shoot the guy in the front of the vehicle, blowing him to pieces. Now, the 50 cal that Schoolboy the sniper has, when you get hit by a 50 cal, they use this movie or these weapons as real as they could. Meaning, if you get hit with a 50 cal bullet, you're going to lose a limb. If you get shot in the arm, you get shot in the chest, you're going to have a hole in your chest. You get shot in the head with a 50 cal, your head's liable to pop up, or to pop like a freaking balloon. They amped up the realism to the point of absurdity. And I got to say, that was one of the best action sequences I've ever seen. And when Rambo started shooting, and one of the missionaries, the one that chastised Rambo for killing the guy, 50 caliber scene was really awesome to see in the theaters. Yes, it was, man. I'm telling you. I didn't see it in theaters, but when I did see the movie, it's like, holy shit. But yeah, there's also the scene when he was cleaning up after the Burmese pirates, where he burns their boat and blows it. There was a deleted scene where Rambo is using his old knife, the original Rambo knife. And Rambo throws that knife into the boat as he's riding off in his. That knife, the real Rambo knife, is somewhere in the Burmese river. It's gone. It's somewhere in the Burmese river. If somebody wants to go there to try to find it, be my guest. But yeah. Well, Thailand River, actually. But anywho, the guy that chastised Rambo for killing somebody, he actually realized that somebody else was about to get killed, so he grabs that guy and beats his head in with a rock, killing him. And he realizes, or then he's kind of shocked because he realized what he did. But it's kind of reminiscent to what Rambo said: when you're pushed, killing's as easy as breathing. Now, when all of it's done and the Karen rebels even came in to fight and help beat these guys, some of the mercs are dead. Some of them are sitting there as if it's just another day. And Julie Benz is looking at them, or seeing a couple of the different mercs, and seeing Schoolboy. He's just sitting there looking off into nowhere. And she then sees Rambo, who's holding his shoulder because he got grazed by a cannon or by another weapon. I think it was another 50 cal. But anyway, he gives her that look. Basically, now you know. Now you know. You're not changing anything here. This is what's natural to this part of the world. Peace is not going to come here simply because you want it to. And converting people to Christian religion is not going to change anything either. And that is one of the things that I also feel myself. I mean, the whole missionary thing, to me, that's called soft conquering. You're conquering them by making them change their ways to be or to believe what you believe. And I do not agree with the missionary purpose. I think that it is heinous and underhanded. And the missionaries basically are going to have to learn that the hard way. I mean, there are missionaries that have been killed because of trying to convert people that don't want to be converted. War is peace. In a way, yeah. I mean, I'm also a very big believer in civis pacem parabellum, which is, if you want peace, prepare for war. Because the only way you're ever going to achieve peace is through war. And war is never going to go away either. So peace, like he said, peace is an accident. I need a Christian, and I don't agree with that practice. The missionary purpose, even as a Christian, I would love people to find their faith, but some people we can't save. I don't even see it as saving, man. Now, yes, they say if you believe in Christ, you are saved and this and that, but what, you're forcing people to change their belief system. I see that as something that's not right. You are forcing others to change to suit your personal agenda or the agenda of those who you serve. That's not right, in my opinion. But anyway, Rambo, after the whole thing, he decides to go home. And he sees that his father is still alive. And he's walking down that long driveway. I mean, if you watch the credits all the way, you see him walk all the way down that driveway and then turn in till he's out of shot. And it is pretty freaking cool. The music that was done by Brian Tyler to mirror Jerry Goldsmith's original score was brilliantly done. Now, 11 years later, we get Rambo Last Blood. And I saw it in theaters. Well, actually, I didn't. I saw it allegedly I saw it in theaters, but I also allegedly didn't see it in theaters. So I saw it. And the theatrical cut that has the rescue scene where Rambo is rescuing people on a mountain from a washout, it's not in the digital cut. It's not. And I'm wondering if anybody who has a hard copy DVD or Blu-ray, do they have that scene in there? Because if they do, I would love to know. But anyway, they start with Rambo on his ranch breaking in a horse. And you're introduced to his Spanish or Mexican housekeeper, and her granddaughter, who he kind of raised as a daughter himself, or of his own, even though it's not really his kid. Anywho, so this girl that Rambo knows and is, or had helped raise, is getting ready to go off to college. I think people don't like this movie, don't understand that if they made an authentic cartel movie, it would be rated X. Yeah, it would have. Very true. It would have. This movie was also awareness driven. It was to raise awareness that the cartels, or that people down in Mexico who are victimized by the cartels, who are sex trafficked, who are sold as nothing, basically as sex objects, they're not they're treated very horribly. And she wants to go meet her real father to find out why he left. And no matter what Rambo had told her, no matter what her own grandmother had told her, she decided to go down to Mexico to her friend, who wasn't really a friend, who basically just treated her like, or who basically served her up. Or people say that the feelings or nothing in this movie, they are very tame. This movie is held back. Believe me, it's held back in a lot of the content. But it still doesn't change the fact that they did show some of the stuff in there that was this was the darkest I had ever seen Rambo. In Last Blood, this was the darkest I had ever seen Rambo, because Rambo had or found a purpose again. He found a purpose. He was trying to build a normal life. And when he went down to look for her, he went to her friend, and he realized that she had on her bracelet, grabs her hand, and he then basically, or she's like, take your fucking hand off me. He slams his knife down right in the damn thing. This was Rambo through and through. He's like, you're going to take me to where she was seen last, or I'm going to hurt you. Basically, Rambo, or one of the things that people don't realize about the Rambo movies, Rambo is a legend, or people think of Rambo as this legend, except that the world he lives in, they don't know who Rambo is. The only people who know who Rambo is are the people who've been around him, which kind of comes across as a legend in your own mind. But Rambo would never see himself as a legend, or a legendary soldier, or the ultimate soldier, or any of that. Yeah, I know one of my favorite YouTubers didn't like it, and he's a massive Rambo fan. Rambo for life. Yeah, or Rambo Ref for life. Yeah, I heard that, or I heard about him and how he didn't like the movie, but this was not a military movie. I think that's one of the reasons why the guy didn't like it. But I actually did like this movie, because it was, or contrary to many of the SJWs who complained that it was a Trump supporter movie. It's like, bullshit, man. This movie was planned 11 years, or freaking back in 2008 when Obama was in office. So yeah, you can miss me with that bullshit. I mean, yes, you see that there, or you see the wall, you see the Trump wall. So fucking what? It's reflecting the real world, assholes. So yeah, you see that, or you also see part of the border where it's not so secure. I mean, Rambo drives right through the damn thing. Well, I think the reason he didn't like it is because he was expecting not to like it. Well, that's kind of a sour attitude to have if you're a Rambo fan. But yeah, going back to streaming or going back to the main topic at hand. So yeah, Rambo goes down to look for her. He kind of gets in hot water because people realized he was looking or he was spying on him and everything. So the Martinez brothers, or I think that's their names, yeah, Martinez brothers, uh, catch up to him and whatnot. They beat the shit out of him. One of them cuts his mark into his face, cuts the mark into the girl's face, uses her as sex labor and whatnot. And while Rambo is healing up, she's being slowly killed. Basically, she's being used and abused. And when Rambo finally gets in there to rescue her, everybody thinks everything's going to be all right. Except it's not all right. She was severely malnourished. She was constantly being pumped full of drugs and whatnot. And her body just shut down on her. And as Rambo was basically saying, you were the best thing that ever happened to me. You are like a real daughter to me and whatnot. And then she dies. And one of the things he says is, why not me? Why not me? So he returns her home, and the grandmother tells Rambo before she drives off, let it be said till the day I die, that my heart has been torn from me. So Rambo took that literally to heart because he felt his heart was torn out too. And so he goes down to the one person who helped him heal. She was a journalist whose sister was taken by the same people that Rambo got his ass kicked by. Oh, I like the guy because he gives his honest opinion, but he said he don't need Rambo 5. Yeah, I mean, Rambo 5 is a clear difference to the other movies. It's not you're not brought into a war zone or the stereotypical war zone. It's a very different atmosphere from the other movies. In the other movies, you're in places like frickin' Afghanistan and Vietnam. And, well, yeah, the first one had the hometown, but yeah. Hey, I'm man enough to admit when the girl died, I cried. I did too. I did too. When she cried, when she died, I cried like a bitch. I cried because that moment was very, very emotional. And when he buries her and he then goes down, he wants to know where they are. He finds the brother that cut his, or that scarred his face and whatnot. And basically, he cartelled that guy. He cut his head off, put the girl's photo on the guy to let everybody know exactly who fucking did it. And the other brother basically gets across the border through tunnels and whatnot, sets up or arms up and takes a bunch of cartel guys there with him to fight Rambo. And Rambo is one of the best shots in that movie was he's driving back, pulls or looses the dude's head right out the damn window. He just holds it out the window and just drops it. And it's like, damn, it's like, holy shit. Oh, wow. Like, yeah, he did that. It's like, yeah, fight me, bitch. Come on, I dare ya. Basically, that was Rambo saying, this is what's going to happen to every fucking one of you. And then he basically preps his tunnels for war. He preps his house for war, his barn, and everything. He preps it all. He's getting ready for one last war. And that is one of the best scenes that took place in less than 30 minutes. It was like a 10 to 15 minute sequence, but every single second of that sequence was crammed in with action. And it showed just how much Rambo was cutting loose. This was all he had left, and he was going to take away everything that guy did to him, or that guy had. What I like about it, it's greatly directed. You actually think Rambo is going to save her, and then it boom hits you hard. Yeah, that's the thing. The director did that perfectly. He got in there, he saved her, but she couldn't live because of the malnourishment and the drugs. It's like all that effort sadly wasn't enough. And but yeah, so the guys get there, he's basically tells that guy, they're all dead, and I'm gonna make you feel all the pain, all the rage, all the hurt. Ooh, that's a beautiful moon. And all of that stuff, and then I'm gonna cut your heart out. And oh my God, that was one of the best scenes I had ever seen. Well, that is a beautiful moon. Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I'm actually looking out my window right now and seeing a crescent moon outside my window. And a very bright star, too. But anyway, back to Rambo. So he kills all these people he turned the entire tunnels into a death trap. And he's like, you want to live? Follow the lights. And then he blows the tunnels, which is a great freaking sequence, man. And so then the guy gets out of the tunnels. He's in the barn. He's looking for Rambo, but he's not seeing him. And then Rambo just pins him to the wall of the barn in the back with arrows from a bow and arrow. I mean, he gets him in the legs, he gets him in the arms or in the shoulders, so he can't lift his arms and whatnot. So he can't move his arms. And Rambo doesn't mince words. He doesn't say anything to him. He just pulls his damn knife, carves right into the dude's chest, and rips his heart out right in front of him. And then he just drops it. It's like, basically, he kept his word. He was going to make that man feel all the anger and rage that Rambo felt, and then he was going to cut his heart out, and he did. And Rambo took an injury. He got shot and whatnot. And so he walks up and sits on the rocking chair that's on his porch. And you hear the ending monologue of how he never really came home. All of his friends and family were long dead, but he would always fight for the country and for those he cared for. And he'll never stop. Now, then it rolls credits, and later on down the credits, you see him it goes through the movies, and then near the end of the credits, you see him riding off as the credits are still rolling. He's riding off into the hills. And this is something I found out just recently when Sly Stallone did a Q&A on Instagram. Somebody asked, does Rambo survive his injuries at the end of the movie? And Rambo basically says, yes, he rode off into the mountains and to a Native American village, and they healed him up there. So yes, Rambo is still alive. And now with all of the story stuff, discussion and whatnot that's out of the way, I'm actually going to rate the whole series of Rambo. And basically, I'm going to rate it objectively, subjectively, and moviegoer, like I always do, folks. Now, objectively, the entire series, 1 through 5, I would give it about a 3.5 out of 5. This is objectively without bias, folks. As much as these movies are good, they are flawed. There were scenes that could have been done better. There were writing that could have done, or that could have been better. And the sequences and cutting and whatnot could have been a little bit better as well. So yes, objectively, these movies did suffer a little bit. Subjectively, I will give the movies a 4.9 out of 5. Damn near perfect. But I do not like that their release out of theaters for Rambo 5, they took out the beginning sequence of the rescue in the mountains. That is the one thing I do not like. And that will drive off 2 out of 100 points. So yeah. I do not appreciate them cutting Rambo down to 90 minutes just because the other movies were all 90 minutes. Now, moviegoer, if you guys like the action and whatnot, you're gonna love this movie. So yeah, it's a 5 out of 5. You're gonna be entertained. You're gonna like the movie. It's an interesting story. It's gonna keep you entertained. And it's gonna keep you engaged. It kept me engaged. I absolutely love the frickin' movies. All 5 of them. I like them. I mean, yes, the third one is forgettable at best. I'm actually going to watch it tomorrow just so I can remember it more. And I believe the third one was where he had the biggest knife. But yeah, the movies were great, folks. And we are at the hour point, so I'm going to start wrapping it up here. Anyway, but yeah, folks, I want to thank Junebug. I want to thank Mr. Pete. And anybody that also was around that did not comment. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. This was the Rambo appreciation stream. I want to thank Sly Stallone for portraying Rambo. I want to thank every person who was involved in making these 5 films. All the way down from the actors to the crew. All of them. Thank you from a fan. I am one person that truly appreciates movies. I look into the special features. I like seeing all of that stuff. So yes, thank you so much for making these 5 movies. You all did wonderful jobs. Anyway, folks, I am going to wrap it up here because it is getting late. So if you're catching this on the replay, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your favorite Rambo moments of all the movies in the comment section below. Anyway, folks, this has been Orange Hat Reviews, and I wish you all a good night. Also, before I go, I have the Goku versus Superman live stream planned for April 10th. Sorry, April 10th, Friday night at 9 p.m. Now, it might be subject to change because of convenience for the other panelists. If it has to, I will let you all know. Anyway, folks, this has been Orange Hat Reviews, and I will catch you all on the next one.